everybody. Welcome to this special edition of Small Town Underground. It is Sunday, the 24th of August, and today in studio I have with me two very important people from the Georgia Republican Assembly, and we're going to sit down and we're going to discuss a myriad of things moving forward. But as you no doubt know, I'm a GRA member. I believe very strongly in it, and we may do these periodically just to keep better communication between our political world and all of our people, so we can see what the GRA is doing, where they're moving forward. They're more than happy to communicate this. They have a newsletter, and from what experience I've had with them, it's been great, and I've seen a lot of fruitful things happen this year. So I appreciate them being in studio, and I want to welcome today Alex Johnson and Nathaniel Darnell, and I'm going to let them each one introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. So I think we'll start with you, Alex. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, and thanks for having me on. I'm Alex Johnson. I'm actually the chairman of the Georgia Republican Assembly, which is a state chapter. It's a state chartered affiliate of the National Federation of Republican Assemblies, which I've been the president of for a few years. They started in California a very long time ago, went national, I think it was in the 90s, and really we just stand for actual Republican principles, like getting politicians to enact basic things like pro-life, pro-gun, limited government, the things that everyone thinks of when you think Republican. And we really just want to hold politicians accountable. We're an all-volunteer organization, and for my actual professional life, I'm an attorney, and I do constitutional rights litigation, personal injury litigation, and some other business and civil advising. So that's important because, if you're making money off politics, you probably shouldn't be trying to lead volunteer politics.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
Yeah, my name's Nathaniel Darnell. I'm the current president of the Georgia Republican Assembly. I have the honor of succeeding Alex in that role. We've changed the role a little bit since it first started, but when the GRA first began back around 2012, and Alex was picked to take over for the organization, it had about 6 members. Alex has grown it to over 1,000 members, and so he's left very big shoes to fill. But my role is basically to make sure that we implement the things that our membership decides, that the board decides, that the chairman leads us in. He's a great visionary, but we need people that can also actually take the plans and implement them, put them into force. And so that's kind of my role as the CEO or president of the Georgia Republican Assembly. I also do not get money from politics. We sacrifice and volunteer a lot of our time to help the cause, but I live happily with my wife, Abigail Darnell, who's one of our NFRA directors, and she's the mother of 3 little girls that we have at home. So we're very happy with that little family. That's a lot of what we do for politics, is to help our children or help the next generation,
Great. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for being here.
It's an honor, yeah. I mean, this studio, we've watched you do interviews with lots of heroes in this same studio. It's kind of cool to be here now, where Colton Moore and other great heroes have sat. And, I consider you kind of like the Paul Revere of our generation here locally in Northwest Georgia. So thank you for the great work you're doing through your podcast.
Well, again, I'm honored. We had a little conversation. I don't really know what I'm doing, but we're following it one step at a time, praying for providence. And I just want to start with a little bit of background on my involvement with the GRA. I met your wife, Abigail. We did a lot of stuff in the Second Amendment community. Before I even met you, I had been asked to come and film a presentation for the GRA. And you and Abigail came into another county. We watched it, and I was at the time I was messing with tactical civics, trying to figure out where we get involved in different ways, and the GRA just kind of blew me away. And so shortly thereafter, I joined, and I thought, what on earth can I do for the GRA? But over the last couple of years, I've watched the GRA become a force to be reckoned with. When you get into politics, especially when you don't have sort of a reason to, you're looking for not necessarily, we're looking for the truth. What was the truth? How do you make things better? And so to me, I've seen the GRA just constantly looking at those same things and trying to lead with the same type of people like Colton and the Freedom Caucus.
Right.
And so, again, I got to attend my first convention with the GRA, and I was kind of blown away because it really does represent the body of the people in the GRA more than I've seen anything else. So.
Yeah, we had a great convention back in May. You're referring to our endorsement convention. We also just yesterday rechartered a chapter that had gone dormant out in the west side of the state in the 3rd Congressional District. Alex and I came out there, and we had Lisa Pierce elected as the new chairperson for that chapter, and Linda Mink as the new president. A lot of great patriots down there. The reason why the GRA exists is because a lot of people are becoming disillusioned with the mainstream Republican Party. I think most of us agree with the principles that the party stands for. I mean, over the course of my lifetime, the party has had great principles. But we're always hearing people say in the establishment, we need to win more elections. We need to win more elections.
Right.
Well, we've won at the federal level more than half of the elections. But somehow it looks like our country keeps going further and further to the left, further into liberalism and statism. Yes. Our national debt is getting higher. All these bad laws keep creeping in. And why are things getting worse if we're winning the elections?
Exactly.
It's that our principles are not being followed. And so a lot of people are getting disillusioned with the mainstream Republican Party, the establishment. And a lot of folks have left. At one point, I left the GOP and started looking at third-party options because it was like, it was a uniparty. It was they weren't doing anything different from the Democrats once they got in power.
Yeah.
And so this was to actually get the party to do what it says it believes.
Do you think that that's extreme, though? Because when you start talking like this, and I am one of those disillusioned people that's just kind of ready to toss the GOP to the curb, right? I don't see any forward momentum. Again, when you talk like that, they say, oh my God, we've got to win. And again, you've said it. We keep winning, but we keep sliding over into the whatever, lunacy. So, I mean, what are we doing here? They call us extreme if we bring up the principles of the Republican Party, yet and they don't want you to call them rhinos or establishment. So
right.
Well, people have to get involved because the issue is that if you go to some GOP conventions and meetings and meet some of these politicians, I mean, you'll realize what it is a lot of the conventions, the way the establishment wants it, is it's a trade association. Like it is a networking association for people who make money off politics.
Yeah.
Because if you look back since 2012, I did the research on this. About 44 billion with a B, dollars have been spent on the presidential races since then. Man. So when you think about, and just the presidential races, so when you think about that type of money, there are a lot of people making a lot of money off of politics.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of those people show up to these conventions, and they're the ones that are talking in the media, talking to people in the media, running campaigns, and repeating some of these lines about, we're just here to elect Republicans. What does that mean? Well, we get someone elected that's a Republican. Well, what do they stand for? And those are the people who don't care what the candidates stand for. Right. They just care about collecting their paycheck.
Right, and every expense is a business expense, so they can write it all off.
Yeah, exactly. So if we want politicians to represent us, we need to be the ones involved. And I know that a lot of the people listening who get disillusioned, they're like, well, why would I want to fight that? I'm like, well, if you don't fight it, you're never going to have a government that represents you, ever. And the third-party options have even less of an ability to have people represent them because they don't even have ballot access.
Right.
And that's where you look at the Republican Party and you realize we stand for the right things.
Right.
We stand for less government. We stand for gun rights. We stand for personal responsibility.
Fiscal responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We stand for all of that. And the problem is the execution. The politicians aren't doing it because they're listening to the money or the lobbyists.
Right.
And that's why you need to come together with a volunteer organization like the Georgia Republican Assembly and make sure that the party itself represents the people. It represents those principles.
Right.
That's why we're a volunteer organization. That's why we empower our members. I mean, it was very nice of you when we came on saying, that we were important people or whatever. But the point is, we're sort of the least important people in the GRA. The people in the GRA that are important are our members because they're the ones who vote at a 2/3 level to endorse candidates, like endorsing Colton Moore. We may be friends with Colton, but our members endorsed him. It wasn't due to the leadership. And when you hear other groups, it's due to the leadership. not due to any. A lot of groups don't even have members. Like
Right.
one of the most notable people who throw rocks at us in Georgia says that they're Tea Party, but it's just one person sending out an email. They don't actually
Well,
have
I mean, you
an
could kind of
organization.
say that about the GOP
And-
currently. I mean,
Yeah, GOP messages the same thing. Like it's not a joint effort,
Right.
and that's the problem. We actually want politicians to do the right thing, and we'll hold them accountable if they don't. The party oftentimes will cheer for politicians even when they do bad things. I mean, they sent out a message praising the Senate caucus after they treated Colton Moore badly. While we
Kicked
pointed
him out of the caucus, and then the next day he got praised.
yeah,
him.
that was
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
so
was insane.
so we don't
Yeah.
put up with that. We don't care about what politicians think of us because the politicians work for us. We're the people. They work
Right.
for us, not the other way around.
We're kind of like the quality control department of the Republican Party. They call us the conscience of the Republican Party. That's what Ronald Reagan called the or the Republican assemblies back when it started in California, and it's transitioned across the country. But that has stuck. I think the GRA members have distinguished themselves as being extraordinary volunteers. They are people that don't just get involved in the GOP and hold a title, but they actually go above and beyond to really make a difference. But even more than that, are there people that have a strong sense of morality and are trying to get the party to do what it says. So quality control. Because yes, the mantra we hear from the establishment, in fact, I heard this just yesterday talking to some folks in the establishment here in the 14th district, and it was something along the lines of, the Republican Party is only here to elect Republicans. That's all we do.
Yes.
Well, what if McDonald's was selling hamburgers,
Right.
but they were substituting the beef for cow patties? Is it selling hamburgers if you're marketing it as a hamburger and you're taking money, or has it ceased to be a hamburger because you don't have any hamburger meat between the buns?
Well, I
you
think,
know,
I think you brought
and that's
up a
kind of
good
where we're
point.
at. We have a lot of Republicans that are not advancing Republican policy.
Well, you
know?
brought up a really good point, because let's talk about the word rhino for just a second.
Right.
Republican in name only. We'll just focus on Georgia in particular, but when I first started this podcast, there was a lot of people getting their feelings hurt about this term rhino, but the more that you study what is rhino, Republican in name only, it's exactly what you've said. You're getting a false bill of goods. So here we are talking about the principles of the Republican Party, and we're here to elect Republicans, but if we're not constantly holding that line of the principles and moving it into a more conservative, political base, then it's fake.
Yeah.
And I feel like that Georgia is especially this way, where they figured out the code. Okay, it's turning red, so we need to jump our ship. We need to turn Republican, and we're going to get on this train. But it still becomes this uniparty. They're not doing anything.
Yeah, I have a radio friend, conservative talk show host out in Texas, Adam McManus. He doesn't like to call them rhinos. He says that's too flattering. He says we got to call them dorks. Democrats opting for Republican clothing.
Okay.
But whatever you call it, it's a problem that's obvious to many people all across the country. And we mentioned that at the federal level, we've won more than half of the elections. Well, in Georgia, since around 2002, we've won like all the elections, and what do we have to show for it?
Exactly.
There's a lot of Republican policy that has not been advancing while we've been completely running all sides of the government here in Georgia, and so that's shameful, and that's causing people to be disillusioned, become disengaged from voting for the GOP and for Republican people, and we don't want to see that happen. We want people to vote Republican, but we want Republican to mean something. We want that policy to be moving forward because we believe that is healthy for the country.
And I think that the people have some of that responsibility to blame. I say it often. It's like the kid getting in a cookie jar when the parents aren't watching, right? We've allowed this to happen. We've allowed this uniparty to fester because we just simply haven't been paying attention. And now that we're paying attention, you're getting all of this pushback by these legislators, because they're like, hey, why are you coming in here? This is the way business is done. We've heard it time and time again. When you enter into the game, they sit you down and they tell you, this is the way it's going to be, and you do it this way, and we're going to reward you with all of these riches.
Right.
And if you step out of line, you won't be allowed to go through that door. And we've seen it physically.
Well, remember former Representative Matt Gertler, who was up in Raven County. I think he's now chief of staff for Thomas Massey. But I mean, he was pushing for constitutional carry for years.
We endorsed him.
When he had a we endorsed him. He was firmly in a Republican area. He got our endorsement. He was standing for gun rights, very obviously. And for whatever reason, for years, they would not let that bill advance, even though Republicans had a super majority in the state. I think it was like a 2/3 vote in the legislature, and they wouldn't advance it forward.
Right.
They finally advanced it forward. When Brian Kemp was primaried by David Perdue and needed to look conservative.
That's right.
Then the
Right.
bill gets passed, and I think by then Matt Gertler may have been out of office, but
Right.
they wouldn't advance it when Republicans were firmly in charge. There was no
Right.
danger of losing the state. There was no, but it's because a lot of these people, like, they aren't leaders.
Right.
Like, I cringe every time I hear someone refer to some politician as a leader, when they aren't. I mean, they're followers. They refuse to stand for anything and take a position and then have people follow it. What they do is they sit there and they're afraid of doing anything to get out of line with the system, anything that might anger the lobbyists.
Right.
And they just won't advance things. I mean, because a lot of times I don't even think it's that they're Democrats. It's that they're, I think you said it right. You called them uniparty. I mean, they just want to follow the money. And
What I've seen a lot is, okay, for example, we have legislators that are handpicked by people that are in positions of power that we don't even vote on, right? That might work for development authorities, work for higher up in the system.
Corporate welfare.
They
That's a
take
big
the
thing.
money and they handpick their candidate, and for
Right.
nothing more than to be a placeholder, hold that position, so that all they got to do is go in there and they get told what to do. They have no idea what's going on, and they've got all of their playbook already handed to them.
Right.
So they don't care about communicating with the people. They don't care about what's good for the communities, especially laughing at the Constitution, or if somebody's upset or worried about their Second Amendment.
Right.
That's what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing these people. We have very few people like Colton Moore is willing to stand up and do these kind of things. So
Right. Yeah.
I
You know,
didn't mean
somebody
to cut
said,
you off there, but it's
Yeah.
that's what I'm seeing from here. We are we're banging our hands on the table saying somebody stand up and run. It's incredibly hard
Yeah.
to do that.
But we are seeing some momentum in that area.
We are.
You know, before, like 20 years ago, I don't know if you guys remember Bobby Franklin from Cherokee County, but he was like the early version of Matt Gertler, Colton Moore, and he was always going against the system, but he didn't have a support base. So, you know, he miraculously kept getting elected because his constituency just loved the fact that he was standing for Republican values. But I remember watching him on the floor of the House getting jeered by both Republicans and Democrats because he would not, you know, follow that system. But he didn't have a support apparatus like we have today with the GRA and the Freedom Caucus. And so now we are seeing momentum where it's just not one guy shouting into the wilderness. We have a group of people that are coalescing. First in the party itself, as we've been gaining influence within the party infrastructure, but now we're seeing, you know, Colton, Charlie Spurd, Noel Cahan, and others coming together in this Freedom Caucus that we're trying to support. And one of our goals, is to make sure that more of the legislators are like Colton and Noel, et cetera, more Freedom Caucus-minded sort of Republican legislators. And supporting them.
Yeah, and the thing is, you mentioned development authorities, and that just made me think about one of the systemic things that has sort of happened. And, you know, the GRA has not endorsed, or members have not endorsed, neither of us have endorsed, and this is not an endorsement or attack on any particular governor candidate. But one thing to look back at is look at, like, Chris Carr's political resume. Like, look back at that. I mean, I know that he was challenged by some GRA members years ago when he was running for Attorney General for not having, like, continuing legal education, because Attorney General is a lawyer. You're supposed to keep up your CLEs, and I know he was challenged because I don't think he had kept up the CLEs, which is continuing legal education. And what was interesting about that is that his history as an attorney seemed to be, and you can look up his resume to make sure I'm not missing something, but I think he worked for a senator originally, Senator
I think
Isaacson.
so.
Then he was appointed in charge of some sort of state economic development authority, which, for those of you who may not know, that he probably got connections in the business community then. And then he was appointed, I think, Attorney General.
Right.
And then he, using those connections, I think that probably would help with fundraising. Then he gets reelected, and now he's running for governor.
Right.
But if you look at that history, and you mentioned development authorities, like, think about how he was appointed to these positions that had connections to money, and then he has just moved up through
Exactly.
that.
And most
it's-
of these have been appointed.
Right.
You go back and look at Brian Kemp was appointed. Most of these positions were
Yeah,
appointed.
after working for politicians. So, I
Exactly.
mean, it's one of those things, like, what is it, like, what does that have in common with the people. Now, if he's going to be voting, any politician who's going to be voting the right way, pushing the right bills, supporting Republican principles, I will support. So I don't really care how they get there, as long as they do what we being we the people, tell them to. As long as they stand by the principles, that's all I care about. But I will say that there is something to be said about, well, if a person is only in the political industry, what is it that they are going to be doing and following and listening to when in office? Are they going to be listening to us?
Right.
Or are they going to be listening to the lobbyists and those with money,
Exactly.
which frankly are the ones who have the time to hire people for part of that, again, $44 billion.
Exactly.
Like, that money is going to lobbyists and consultants and such that, I mean, who are they going to listen to? And I think that's something that the voters need to be thinking about. And if you really want to be informed on it, you aren't getting this on CNN or Fox News. You're getting it by being involved. And that's why the GRA and the National Federation of Republican Assemblies, if you're not in Georgia, like you should be part of that, because we pay attention, by talking to each other and
try to keep you informed.
I mean, I'm trying to focus always on truth. I have no angle. In the last 2 years, the most effective arms of the political system I've come to see happen is the GRA and the Freedom Caucus. I've publicly stated that. Show me more that's able to do more. I'm a firm advocate of the John Birch Society, and they do things. There's other groups out there, especially grassroots, the election integrity groups that are doing. But again, these are the leaders of Georgia that are picking people up by the hand and saying, "Stand up and come with us." You know, we've and we're disrupting this business as usual atmosphere, and they don't know how to handle it.
So those organizations you just named off, some of them, those are partner organizations that we like to work with. Some of them are big picture, holistic organizations. Some of them are ones that focus on specific narrow issues, like Georgia Gun Owners focuses on gun rights. Georgia Right to Life focuses on pro-life.
They blow anybody out of the water for what they've done with Second Amendment. It's amazing to watch Georgia.
And a lot of these groups are accountability minded like we are. They're not kissing up to the politicians. They're calling out the bad guys. And they don't mind the fact that they don't get invited to the parties because, you know, it's not about that. It's about making sure that they're doing what they say they believe in. So we love partnering with groups like that share our commitment to the principles over the politicians, and we will partner with them, promote them, work together wherever we can. But what I think what happens a lot of times when you have somebody like us who for whatever reason they get motivated to get involved in their local GOP, they come in by themselves. And so the establishment, the rhinos, everybody pounces on them and says, okay, well, if you're going to get involved, you have to jump through all these hoops and you have to do it our way. You have to be a cheerleader for the politicians.
Do exactly as they say.
And they train you, or they scare you away. They either scare you away or they get you to conform. What makes the GRA different is we're helping people when they come in to not be assimilated by that mindset, help them keep their commitment to the principles ahead of politicians, and learn how to be effective in the party at the same time, how to work with others, how to learn things like parliamentary procedure so you can actually get things done at a convention.
I've learned more from you two than I've learned from anybody. So.
Alex does a great training on parliamentary procedure. If your listeners haven't been involved or want to learn more about it, you should definitely sign up for one of those trainings. Don't go to one of the establishment trainings because they're going to try to brainwash you and make you think that you just need to do what they say regardless of what the rules actually say. But you do need to learn parliamentary procedure. You know, obviously at these conventions, we've seen some instances lately where the rules were grossly not followed.
Yeah.
And we've been talking a lot about that the last couple of months from things the state convention.
Sure.
But it's been going on for years. Alex and I have been involved since at least 2012, and we've seen violations of rules at every state convention, district convention, county convention, in some level or another. And a lot of people don't even know it. It goes over their heads.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was my first convention, and I know a lot of people that their first convention, and they say they've never seen anything like that before. But obviously, every convention is pretty contested like that. I mean, obviously, my view of the whole deal was I don't think that anything was followed right at the beginning because they were so hell bent on not having
paper ballots. You're talking about this last convention.
This
in
last
June.
convention,
and that was even the worst one. Just so you know, since 2009, the 2025 was not the worst.
Yeah,
convention.
I know you took some flack for that too. I saw online. You know, you were, and I'm like, guys, we gotta. I keep trying to remind everybody that this is a game, and it's being played for years and years and years. And just because we're entering in. We all want something. We want it our way yesterday.
Right.
But that's not the way that it works. So
it is good to have that ambition, but it's also good to have a long game mindset. Like,
Sure.
we're not trying to turn everything around this cycle. We are playing a long game.
Absolutely.
And Alex and I have been doing this for almost 2 decades now. So we're in for the long game.
Okay.
And really, folks have to have that mindset if they want to overcome.
Yeah.
All right.
And,
So-
and speaking of that convention too, I mean, and this is just one of the things the RA had to do is that, we have internal rules too about the behavior of our board members and just what we stand for. Because when we're sitting here saying we want to involve people and we empower the people, we really mean it. Right. And one of the things that happened at this last convention, which came up, was the chair of the nominating committee at that convention was one of the GRA board members,
Right.
Katie Frost. And we have a rule that says that people on our board cannot undermine our endorsed candidates. Like, they have to support our endorsed candidates.
Which was a rule that the Frosts actually introduced 2 years ago, and
it
it was
was.
their idea.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we ended up kicking out Katie Frost
Right.
as a member, and we had an investigatory committee at the time looking into the behavior of other members of ours,
Right.
including Brant Frost V, at the convention. Like, so there were allegations of blocking mics and causing issues. So that was all in process
Right.
after the convention. So that's something that people need to recognize too. Is just because we aren't out there
Exactly.
having a gigantic public fight about it. I mean, we removed one of
Yeah,
our
you
board
did.
members, and we were about to, that we had investigations going on in other members at the time too, which we need to hold ourselves accountable in cases like that as well. I mean, we empower our members
I
to make
agree.
decisions.
That's what I saw. And speaking of accountability, I think we'll segue into that. Let's talk about it, because there's a couple of issues we're going to talk about and get them out of the air. But accountability, this was GRA. Obviously, we've been pushing this. It's something that has always sort of needed to be there. You give us a little bit of history of accountability, and then we'll kind of go into this current state of what we have. Obviously, Catoosa County is the big ticket. And might I remind folks that we have other counties in this state that have the accountability rule well in place, that are having no issues whatsoever.
Right.
So Catoosa's a little different there. But
Right.
give us some background to this.
So let me just start with something broad.
Sure.
So when you think about accountability, so you have political parties, like, in most countries have political parties.
Yeah.
So what is the point of a political party? Now, if you talk to the establishment people, they will openly just keep repeating this dumb mantra of, well, we exist to get Republicans elected. Like, the party exists to get, like, the party nominees
machine.
elected. Which makes no sense and is, I think, unique worldwide. Because if you go to the United Kingdom, you go to other countries, you have parties. Those parties believe in certain things. They put people up for office that believe in those things. Those people then either get elected or don't. And then when they're in office, if they don't follow what they said they were running on, the party throws them out
Right.
and doesn't let them run again.
There's plenty of examples all across the world where this is happening.
Yeah, so that is
Yeah.
what a political party really does. So the idea of accountability is just what I think most voters think is happening anyway. Because I
Right.
know that when I first got involved in the party, I had grown up. I got involved in 2009. I had been told my whole life Republicans believe in, the things we've talked about earlier. And I got involved in the party and then saw politicians not doing those things. And I just felt personally that I had been lied to. I felt like the party had been lying to my parents and grandparents and all of my friends when the politicians weren't doing what they said they were going to do. I realized that just voting Republican wasn't enough.
Right.
So that I think is the underlying basis of accountability, is that the Republican Party has the honor and ability to put people on the ballot. We are an organization that can put people on the ballot according to state law.
That's right.
And since we're able to do that, we need to make sure the people we're putting on the ballot aren't lying and deceiving the voters into thinking they are something they aren't. That they aren't uniparty, they aren't Democrats, they aren't socialists, they aren't fascists. Like, the people we put on the ballot are Republicans.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Makes sense.
And the thing is, though, is that to people who are somehow afraid of what that leads to, I mean, the point is that, like, presidential candidates in Georgia, David Duke was not allowed on the presidential ballot.
That's right.
The Republican Party, just this last year, they picked who was on the presidential primary ballot. The executive committee did that. So the party already acts as a gatekeeper.
Right.
It's just that the fight, it seems to me, is that the political industry doesn't want the rhinos and the dorks not allowed. They want them to be allowed on the ballot at all levels, and I mean, I think that's lying. But
Yeah. So there's basically two different types of activists in Republican Party politics. You have access-minded activists, and most of those are, like he was describing earlier, the people that are involved in the political industry or the people that they're influencing. Those are the people that get a real sense of identity from having, being invited to all the parties and being able to have the governor or the legislator on their speed dial. It's status, right? It's very prestigious, right? And so you get the pictures with that guy, and he's your best buddy and all that. But you really don't have a lot of influence. It's really the dog being the tail wagging the dog. Because if you ever confront the politician about something that he's doing wrong, we're immediately going to lose that access. So he really has you under his control, not you under controlling him so much. And so, that's the access-minded approach. The accountability approach is what Alex is describing. Yeah, quality control. We got to actually do what we stand for. And so back in, I think, 2021, Alex introduced a resolution at the state convention in Jekyll Island, which said, we're going to do this. We're going to do this with regard to Brad Raffensperger. There were a lot of people that were upset at the time with Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger because of the election integrity issue that was coming to the forefront as being a huge problem. You have certain people like Garland Favorito that were preaching about the problems of election integrity for years and years and years. But when we got to the 2020 election, the awareness of the problem really spiked.
That's right.
And then you saw how Raffensperger kind of threw Trump under the bus, and they rushed to certify the election without, double checking things, investigating things. And so a huge wave of new people got involved in the GOP in 2020. We in the GRA helped to get them plugged in, helped to train them so they could immediately be involved and have some traction, get into positions of influence, and that's what we do. But that issue, Alex brought forward a resolution in Jekyll Island that year with all these new delegates that were concerned about election integrity that said we want to block Raffensperger from being on the ballot at the next primary. And the convention chair, I think he ruled that out of order, or at least he made an argument that shouldn't be allowed or shouldn't be legal or something like that.
Against it,
he really damaged the credibility of it, at least when Alex brought it forward. I remember him saying, I'm an attorney and I don't think you can do that. And Alex says, well, I'm an attorney and I think we can. But that got blocked in 2021, and then we introduced it again the next year, and we've introduced it again the following year. We've introduced it every year, and every year they've maneuvered and managed to prevent us from getting a vote. I remember at the last Columbus convention, I literally was standing at the mic. I had just made the motion, and then they said, well, hold it, we're not at that point of business yet. So we got to the business done that we were doing that was ahead of that. And then instead of, I had my hand up, another guy had his hand up, Josh McCoon recognized the other guy said, I make a motion to adjourn. If he had called on me, we would have been voting on the Raffensperger resolution. But the other guy got called on, we adjourned, we never got to it.
Gotcha.
So one thing or another, they have thwarted that. This year, though, we got
That's
a vote.
Right. We must acknowledge that these resolutions did get voted on this year at the convention. Above all else, above all the crap, they got voted on this year.
In resolutions, and that's the thing is that, so I got involved in the actual party in 2009, and I went to all the state conventions, and there were always resolutions being proposed. But resolutions, they would fight over them like life or death at county levels, district level, state level. But these resolutions were things that were like, we are opposed to anything that undermines pro-life, or we're opposed to anything that does whatever X thing. And the resolve section, the actual action the party should take in those resolutions was always, we express our displeasure and this should be sent to the representatives. That's what they said, and that's all I ever saw in them. But the point is, that just means that is directing the party to send it, and that says the party is displeased. A resolution, according to Robert's Rules of Order, or anything else, is that it is a written motion. So if the motion says, which is the case of the Raffensperger resolution, it said, the party shall not qualify him, Period.
Shall.
Like it is a directive to the party. It is not.
Well,
It is
guys,
not
we've
a.
already got this one done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Who was it that that the Republican Party did this to? The former governor or lieutenant governor Jeff Duncan.
Jeff
Oh yeah, and
Duncan,
the executive committee already did it with the lieutenant governor.
They did
after,
it with the lieutenant governor.
Yeah, and that's the point, is that there's very little doubt that the party has that power. Like, it's under
Right.
the First Amendment. The party cannot be forced by the government, be it a court, be it a legislature, to associate with someone that it doesn't want to.
Exactly.
So the party saying we aren't going to associate with Raffensperger means we aren't going to associate with Raffensperger.
Right.
And that's what was passed by the state convention delegates, which is the governing top body of the state Republican Party. So there are people out there trying to say, well, it's not binding and it's a resolution. Resolutions aren't binding. I mean, some of them may genuinely believe it's not binding because all they saw were resolutions going back years that all said, well, we're just displeased. Well, fine, you're displeased. Who cares you're displeased?
What, is
Right.
that,
What
do they call
matters-
that a strong statement?
Yeah, a letter to
Yes,
the editor.
but,
Yeah.
but that resolution is we will not qualify
Exactly,
him,
the
which
word
is
shall.
which matters.
It's basically
And-
a wordy motion. If you read Robert's Rules of Order, it basically says that you can put a motion to do something into a resolution. And so it's just a very verbose way of making a motion.
Right.
And that's what it is. It wasn't just we're expressing our displeasure,
Right.
we're mad. It's actually calling on specific action of the Republican Party of Georgia. And since the body that passed that resolution governs the Republican Party of Georgia, they have the authority to require it.
guess.
So the chairman doesn't have the choice legally and under the rules to not do what the delegation has already decided.
Right.
He is obligated morally and legally to follow through and to block Brad Raffensperger from qualifying for
Sure.
office next March. We've done other forms of accountability through resolutions in the past. I think one thing we did that was kind of a transition from just expressing our displeasure to this measure was here in the 14th district at our convention. You know, since you're in the 14th with me, we've passed several resolutions where we expressed our displeasure with specific legislators. We named names.
Absolutely.
Like when we had that mental health parity bill a few
Yes.
year ago, we said, here are the Republican legislators who voted against it. We like those people. Those guys did the right thing. And here's all the Republican legislators that voted for it. And they're bad. So we listed names. And people got upset here on the 14th that
Well-
we did that, but because they're not used to it.
Right.
They're used to us only, being cheerleaders for them and only making them look good. But here we were exposing the fact that they were not supporting Republican policy.
Yes.
They need to act better. Like, that's
Right.
it, the politicians need to act better. Like, if they don't like being called out, then don't do the wrong things.
Sure.
And if you don't know what the wrong and right things are, talk to the Republican Party in your district
Right.
before you
Exactly.
decide to act. You work for us, not the other way around. Like, the politicians work for the people, not the other way
Right.
around. And that's what's so embarrassing, is that all these other countries seem to get it. Like, they understand that
Well-
the parties are the ones that are getting the politicians on the ballot.
Right.
And the U.S. is here being like, hey, give us a check and we'll just look the other way. And it's like, no, that's not the way this
All right.
should work.
I'm
Right.
glad you brought that up. So
Right.
let me. I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, because when I first heard about accountability, and
Right.
any time I hear something, I need to try to understand it. I am. I'm one of the, I consider myself for the longest time a libertarian and more sort of free speech absolutist. Right? Why would you block a candidate off the ballot? I have been in those positions before. People wanted me to block people from speaking at functions, and I'm like, whoa. No, that's not me. I let the person get up and speak. So I had to understand what accountability is. And part of my journey is, well, if you're going to get into the fight and it's red and blue, well, no matter what you feel, the first thing I did was sit down and what is the Republican Party? And I read the principles. I said, okay, I can get behind this. I can get behind this. And if I'm going to join this party, that means I've got to fight for that, right? Doesn't mean I give up any of my thoughts or principles, but that's the forefront. So accountability first to me was like, this is kind of crazy that we're going to be blocking people from access. And mind you, to the folks out there that listen to this rigmarole that you're blocking people from the ballot, that is not true. You are simply blocking the access of voting on a Republican ticket. They can run
Right.
as anything else.
Right.
Now, all that being said, I had to study it and understand it. And then I realized that, hey, this makes a lot of sense. Holding Republicans accountable because they are not doing what is supposed to be done. This is what this whole conversation has been about.
Right.
And once you kind of realize that, it takes it to a whole nother level, and you understand, yes, we should be doing this. We should be taking a look. And in Catoosa County in particular, most of these people already had a track record. They already had things that we were looking at and investigating. You know, it was
Right.
not like picking on them. It was starting somewhere where, hey, we've got to get real representation here, right? Would you agree with that?
I mean,
Yeah.
that is true. But and the thing to remember is that essentially the opposite position is saying that the party and all these volunteer activists in the local or state Republican Party need to be accomplices. They need to aid and abet lying to the voters,
Right.
Because that position is essentially someone who is lying about being a Republican has an entitlement to be on the Republican ballot and use money and connections to trick voters into getting on the general election
Yes.
as a Republican. They are trying to force volunteer activists to cave to the pressure of money, to cave to people who, if they live in Atlanta, they would run as Democrats. If they're living in Catoosa or Walker, they're going to run as Republicans.
Exactly.
They're going to use money from their connections, lobbyists, developers, to just tell everyone in the public that they should win the primary.
Right.
And then they automatically win in the general because of, going back again to the $44 billion, that money is spent to create the impression you're either an R or you're a D.
Right.
You're a Republican or you're a Democrat, and you should vote that way. And the voters expect the Republican Party to actually at least make sure that the people on the primary ballot
That's right.
are Republicans, that they actually are involved and believe in the
I
principles
agree.
they say. And that is the job. That is why one would be involved as an activist. Like if you aren't going to be doing that, I mean, why even have the party? Like,
That's
why
right.
should the party exist if anyone can just walk in and buy their way into a primary ballot for local commission seats or state rep seats? Like,
Well, that's part of that's what I'm hearing. Oh, if you don't have the money and the power and the access, well, you might as well give it up. And I'm like, if that's your bottom line, then what are any of us doing here? What do I care whether a Republican gets elected? We need to be looking for the strongest, the most principled, the ones that are going to stand up and do what is rightfully done. And a lot of your voters, they don't care. And so we need to be gatekeeping.
drain the swamp.
Yes.
President Trump, Republican, drain the swamp. And then he
Yes.
walks in. Look at his first term. Reince Priebus being appointed chief of staff, I believe, was a mistake. That guy was establishment.
Yeah.
That guy was the leader of the swamp.
Yes.
And President Trump got him in there, and they got rid of him very, very quickly because I think he realized very quickly that Priebus
Yeah.
was not advancing America First principles. He was not trying to drain the swamp.
Right.
And that's why I think President Trump's second term is so much better, because I think he figured out
Yes.
during the first term that the political industry were not his friends. They had great resumes working in politics, but they were undermining his America First
Big
agenda
time.
regularly.
Big
And
Right.
that is, and I mean, we see it on the national level, but I think that people need to realize it starts on the local level. Like,
Yeah.
you need to drain it here,
Right.
and no one's going to come do it for you. You have to be involved to make it happen.
And I'd like to point out one thing about Catoosa County. I'm watching it very closely.
Mm-hmm.
All of this that's been going on specifically in Catoosa County with
Right.
accountability and all of this. You know, we've got groups out there like Drain the Creek, and of course Joanna Hildreth, who's been kind of spearheading this.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the progress that's being made in that county, we've got all of these opposing views they're talking to each other every day, and now you're seeing these same people that were faced with these accountability rules and stuff. They're coming around and they're actually engaging with the people,
Right.
and they're looking at better ways. I just saw where the state rep over there was congratulating one of the commissioners because of their pro stance on not raising income taxes and doing things.
Those
And
commissioners have become responsive.
The commissioners are responding to the people. So
Yeah.
to these people out here that have been constantly criticizing and being the negativity behind all this, do you not understand that this is just bringing the people and the politics closer together?
Right.
And it's forcing accountability whether you like it or not.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing to me.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, so let's talk about Catoosa specifically, right? And let's get very specific because I know this can all become very abstract when we're talking about things like this. But yeah, so in Catoosa, you had incumbent commissioners that were doing things that were not considered Republican. They were restricting people's freedom to raise chickens.
That's right. The chicken
That
war.
is your bottom line. That's going to hurt your wallet if you can't have that freedom. They were raising taxes. They were telling people you can't go out and be free again unless you take this COVID vax. And then one of them actually publicly endorsed a Democrat for office, and then was like, "How could you, not want me to run as a Republican again?" I mean, this is really not that crazy. But the Catoosa folks were bold enough to be the first ones to adopt an accountability rule after the pattern that Alex had set, and then they implemented it. And their group, their committee, voted to say these 4 commissioners cannot qualify again under these rules. So they followed their process, and they refused to qualify them. This judge locally got brought in, and he was threatening them with like $1,000 an hour. No problem. $1,000 an hour fines for every hour that they didn't qualify them, jail time. The Catoosa folks bravely stood up against that intimidation, and instead of following through with his threats, the judge just went around them and got the local board of elections to let them in. The case got appealed. It went to state. It went to the federal court system. Eventually, actually, this just happened in early June, like 4 days after the state convention, we got word that the federal 11th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld Catoosa's right to block these rhinos. And they've kicked the case back down to Rome for Judge Billy Ray to look at the case under its merits now. So, yeah, they're going to get a chance to sue these people and force this issue.
Yes.
And you're right. I think it has put the fear of God in these local commissioners, so they're finally being a little bit responsive to the folks locally. It's great. I hope that same impact starts to spread all over the state as more counties start to adopt these type of rules and implement them. And Republicans in the state legislature hopefully start to think about this and the implications for them. That they become more responsive to the grassroots patriots that they're in their communities.
So absolutely, Catoosa County has kind of paved the way into all of these things, and I think that we're seeing the fruits bared from all of this. At the very least, if every county understands that it's no longer business as usual, and the people are going to get involved, and they're genuinely going to get involved to push things the right way, how can this be a wrong way to apply yourself? I mean, this is what it was supposed to be in the beginning. And I think having accountability, just like you said, it really makes people understand that their higher oath of office, which is to the people first. And I think we have a long way to go with it, particularly in this state. I mean, I know there's other states that are like us, but where it seems to me like we're just fighting this corporatocracy is what I call it all the time, because the further up the chain you go, it seems like that we elect these positions on the ground level, but every one of them are managed by unelected bureaucrats, unelected people that are being paid on the books, the further and further up to sort of gatekeep the everything. When you look at the way the millage rates work, the way the education system works, the way everything is separate, and it seems like it's made to be like this finger-pointing session. But then when the people are there and they push them too hard, what do they say? Oh, well, we're either going to get hit with litigation or they're going to put us in jail. So it seems like there's a lot of barriers that we got to break down in order to get principled candidates, principled people, and a system that works for the communities. You agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and this concept of accountability shouldn't be that hard. We're saying the government should not prevent us from having the freedom to associate, just like any other private association, right?
Right.
So if it was a church, and let's say it's a Christian church, a Baptist church, for example, and would you say the government could force that Baptist church to allow a Buddhist to serve as a pastor? Could they force them? No. They should be able to gatekeep and say, no, we want people that share our doctrinal beliefs to only be part of our denomination. If it's a corporate interest, if it's Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, is the government going to be able to force Coca-Cola to have a member of the board at Pepsi, working in Coca-Cola on their board?
Absolutely.
Where they have contrary interests? No.
See, I think that's good, these examples, because people, and I'll tell you one thing, I think that the reason why the accountability rule got so much attention is because it's very close to that election. And so I feel like that people that didn't agree with it had the upper hand in unpublicizing their side. And I think that's why, the timing of it was all. But again, using these examples, I mean, it's not like you're you're changing the way bread is made. I mean, it's the truth of the situation that's always needed to be there. It's always been there.
Right.
And now it's like, look, either you get on board if you're going to be an elected servant, or we're going to get you out of the way until we get the people that are there and we move this thing forward.
Right.
Well, and remember that the people who are opposed to accountability efforts are oftentimes politicians. And you might wonder, like, well, what advantage do they have? But remember, they have connections to people in the media. Anyone listening to this right now, just think, how many connections to reporters do you have?
Right.
I mean, most of us don't have those connections. Most of them do. And then they also have staff who work for the government who they can also make afraid and be like, well, if I'm out of office, like you all are going to go too. I mean, this is important. So they can bully and cajole and have connections to other governmental agencies and people in their localities that they can inspire to be like, yes, you need to be on my side. So you have the people who are making money off of it on the very real staff level in government trying to rally people, while we, the people, and those involved in the party who see them doing bad things, like as Nathaniel pointed out, like endorsing a Democrat while claiming to be a Republican. I mean, we all need to be working together, be involved to stop that, because frankly, these politicians are hypocritical paper tigers a lot of the time. Because think about the contradiction that they themselves are saying. They're like, well, you know, they tell the voters, like, well, they're taking away your choice. And it's like, well, wait a second. I mean, you, the politician, are allegedly popular, right? So why do you need to run under the Republican banner?
Right.
Like, I mean, if you're so popular and have so many friends,
Exactly.
You
turn
should
around
run as an independent or a Democrat or whatever.
get on the ballot as independent. Like this, you could still be on the general election. Like it would be unconstitutional for a state to stop people from running for office as an independent or not as a party. Like people have a right to not do that. They can run as an independent. So if they're so popular, why aren't they just fine with running as an independent? Why are they trying to force themselves onto the Republican ballot? And the answer to that is they want to lie to the voters.
Right.
They want the party's complicity and assistance in deceiving voters in the general election. So that's the thing to remember is that when they're complaining, just point out to them like, well, one, you must be really unpopular, and two, why do you need the Republican Party to help you lie in the general?
Exactly.
And the answer is because they wouldn't be able to win without the Republican Party. And
If you look at across the map of Georgia, you're going to see around the big cities like Atlanta and around Savannah, et cetera, some blue spots, some purple spots. But most of the state, most of the counties are red, like deep red.
Yes.
And so that means that in most of the counties and different districts around Georgia, you have the opportunity for rhinos to sneak in.
That's right.
Because there isn't this accountability being implemented in most of those areas. So you take that away and you change everything.
That's right.
That's what we're excited about with this implementation as all these red counties.
I certainly agree. And I think that was a pretty good clarification there. Obviously, you're going to have detractors. You're going to have people that are going to fight this thing to the death. But if you simplify it, as you gentlemen have, if we've looked at it, I can see where people are uncomfortable with this. But this is everyday life we're talking about. There's nothing special here.
Oh, yeah. Well, you will hear people say, oh, don't we need to just be unified and have harmony? We shouldn't be so mean to these politicians. We ought to just be, doing good things and saying nice things to them and blessing them and patting them on the back when they do good, but we should never call them out. And it's like, hold up. No. I understand, motivating through a carrot and a stick. Okay. I will give a carrot when a guy does well, but I want you to be honest with yourself because the politicians also use sticks too. Because I've seen them do it at the Capitol where they did it to Colton Moore. They've tried to do it to Matt Gertler. They will say things like, well, if you don't support our bill, if you don't support the budget, if you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to take away your committee assignments. You're not going to get assigned to the committee you want. We're going to move your office overlooking the dumpster. You're going to have the parking space with a giant pillar that's furthest away. And then we're going to primary you. We're going to give money. We're going to have all the chairmen of all the committees donate money to your primary opponent. So that is them bringing a stick.
That's
Okay,
right.
so if it's not appropriate for us to bring a stick, why is it appropriate for them to bring a stick against patriots and conservatives?
There you go.
The truth is that they know to use a carrot and a stick because
Yep.
it works. We also need to
Rules
have carrots
for
and
thee,
stick.
but not
Yeah,
for me.
and they work for us. That's the thing to remember is if they need to be accountable to us, not to some committee head or committee chair or House Speaker. Like those, all of the reps are supposed to be working for the people
That's right.
that elected them, who happen to be Republicans in most of this state.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's and as you pointed out, Roy, the politicians suddenly start acting better when someone might actually threaten their reelection.
That's
Like if the
right.
Republican Party is saying, "Hey, you need to act better or you might not get reelected," they're suddenly going to be passing better policies
That's right.
that happen to be Republican aligned policies.
Not
But
even
if
better, like the right. I mean, if I can
Yeah.
if I can walk off the street being pretty much an idiot and read something, this sounds right, but then they're passing something that is completely complex and just astronaut, just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's all I care about. Just do the right thing, and that's where this accountability comes in. Just do the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, the Republican Assembly endorsed a resolution that was passed by the state GOP supporting Senator Colton Moore's Anti-Corruption Act,
Yeah.
which very clearly says, and this blows my mind, but did you know that right now government entities hire lobbyists to lobby other politicians to pass things? Like your tax
Yes.
money is being used to hire lobbyists to make government more restrictive and oppressive on you. That's what your tax money is going for. What that Anti-Corruption Act would do is stop that from being
right.
legal. It would not allow your tax money to be used to hire lobbyists that you obviously that you cannot get yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, it would stop these leadership committees, which were passed many years ago by I think it was pushed by Governor Kemp, that allow unlimited raising of money
yeah,
by
which
very
now-
select politicians that could be raised during session, which now I think Governor Kemp has, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars in a committee, which therefore makes it so that, I mean, good luck trying to counter that average citizen.
And wrap your mind around the fact that we have a state attorney general who supported that, and now he's bringing a federal lawsuit against the candidate running for
Right.
that position.
It's running against him.
Wrap
Right.
your mind around that for.
Oh, look at that hypocrisy. I mean, that's the thing is you have the attorney general who I still don't know how many days he has ever been in a courtroom.
Right.
But he first defended the bill that created the leadership committee, saying it's perfectly constitutional. It's an awesome thing. Like his name is on the documents defending it in court.
right.
And then recently he's now suing one of his opponents, who's Trump endorsed, Burt Jones, saying like, "Oh, you are somehow doing something unconstitutional by having this committee, which Carr had previously defended." Like
Exactly.
I mean, they think we're idiots, and they're
I
fine
think
lying
that's the
to
truth.
us.
I think that they think we're so stupid, or maybe they're just on some sort of a level, which is even worse to me. Like that we are just nothing but peons. That they can come out publicly and like who was sitting at a table thinking, "Oh, this is a great idea. We're going to do this," and then like just us idiots down here are going to look at this and be like, "Wow, no, this is ridiculous, man." I
Yeah.
wanted to send a clear message that this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I mean,
Right.
come on, if that's all you have,
Right.
good Lord.
I mean, that's why you have to be involved, and that is like why
Yes.
the GRA. I mean, Nathaniel and myself. We're in if you're in other states, like join or create an assembly. Like we are welcoming. We
Yeah.
we want everyone to understand this, and then we want to get good people into office. Like it is about changing and improving the political culture and making sure the Republican Party stands for the voters. And because that's the thing, like most people are not going to have the time every day to follow this and notice the hypocrisy and do this. But if you have any time or inclination, you being involved and then making it so the public can trust the Republican assemblies and the Republican Party, that's how we make the country better. We make it so Republicans are like the premium Aston Martin Cristal level of like greatness, not so that people go vote every year and think, well, the Republican isn't great, but they're better than the
Yeah,
Democrat.
I'm
Like we
done.
don't need that.
No
we
more
need
holy
good
mediocrity.
people.
No.
Yeah, we want
Mediocrity.
people to love it. We want people to be excited to vote
That's
Republican to the point of the establishment who's like, our job is to get Republicans elected. You know how we do that? We make it so people are excited to vote Republican,
That's
so
right.
that they love the people that we are putting up for office.
Right.
Not so that they show up like, oh, well, it's better than the Democrat.
Yeah.
I
Like,
agree.
After a while, people just stop voting with that mindset.
That's right.
That's what we're
Exactly.
trying
Well,
to
that's
correct.
where this disenfranchisement is happening now, right? And we've got a huge election coming up in 26. So,
Yeah.
all right. So we're pressed for a little bit on time here. So
Yeah.
I want to cover one other thing that we had discussed, and
Yeah.
a lot of folks are. I think we can clear some air here, all right? Because obviously we have a big situation in Georgia politically with the Frost family, the Ponzi scheme, the GRA has been named in some of this stuff. So I kind of want to go through some of this and let's kind of clear the air and figure this out here because there's a lot of things flying around. So give us a little background here and kind of where we're at as far as where the GRA falls in any of this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing to remember, you mentioned the Frost family, so you need to go way back. I think 1989, I think Frost the Fourth was involved with the Pat Robertson campaign, which was the anti-establishment campaign, and the family had been involved in the party, as far as I know, ever since, for decades.
Yeah.
Right, they've been around a while.
Generally standing with conservatives, people who wanted less government, pro-life, pro-gun, like being on that side of things, being anti-establishment. And when the Republican Assembly had rechartered in Georgia around 2013, 2014, then I became president, I think it was 2015. I mean, Brant Frost V, who had been in favor of anti-establishment stuff, he became first vice president. He had been involved, stood on the side against the establishment for years. I know that Nathaniel had been friends with the family for years, and I became friends with him. I mean, you fast forward to just the last couple years, there had been a lot of dissension within the Republican Assembly with the Frost, and this was not all public because it doesn't really inspire people when there's a lot of infighting, but there was a lot of effort. It seemed to me, my personal opinion was, it seemed like Brant Frost V was becoming much more about access, about backing our people instead of supporting our members. And there had been a lot of infighting. There was a lot of internal allegations, which I found to be unfounded, criticizing Nathaniel, trying to say that he was heavy-handed in trying to control things, when in reality Nathaniel was just as open as we're talking about right here. And there was a culmination sort of at the state convention, as I mentioned earlier, where Katie Frost, as chair of the nominating committee, gets up and starts supporting people against our endorsed candidates. There were allegations that Brant Frost V had been orchestrating mic blocking, and that led to Katie being kicked out, and then a very public, I think it was called the GRA Exodus, which was made to look like tons of members were leaving when it was really less than 10% of our members. But the AJC was saying all these people were leaving, and it was all I believe
stunt.
Yeah, and I believe it was all in reaction to Katie Frost being kicked out by Nathaniel for what happened at the convention. And I mean, the organization, we were following our rules, and her being kicked out automatically, and then they all leave. And I mean, they were likely on the verge of the rest of them being kicked out, but it was a very contentious time. But that all happened, and then I think that immediately after that happened is when the stuff broke about the alleged Ponzi scheme.
About 2 or 3 weeks later,
with the SEC,
Yeah,
and
that
I mean,
was wild.
It really
shocked all of us. Nobody had any idea. I was like, wow. And we had started to have our disagreements with the Frosts. People change. We've seen people that we've been involved with in politics change over time.
Well, but is it fair to say, and this is me looking outside because I don't know the Frosts. I've been around them just a very little. But is it fair to say that there was when you brought it up last couple of years that the Frost started to sort of want to take over things? Is it fair to say that, or because what I was getting was that the Frosts were trying to get into controlling all of these aspects?
Well, what I think happened, so and this requires some historical knowledge of the party. So 2013, I ran for state party chair in a 4-way race. I think I was 20, I don't even know how old I was, 27, 28. I mean, it was a long time ago, but hold on, 2013, that would have been, I guess I was I was 20-something at the time. I ran for state party chair. I was treated like a joke because I was in my 20s, and I ended up in a 4-way race. I ended up in second place, losing 40-60. So it was closer than anyone thought, and no one thought I would be on that final ballot. 2015 rolls around, I run against the guy who won in 2013. John Padgett, because at that time, the party had been sued. It had more debt, I think, than it did assets. So the money that had gone down, they'd been sued for racial discrimination, and the party was not being inclusive at the time. So I run against him, a two-way race. I think I got about 45% of the vote. The incumbent treasurer endorsed me because of the financial situation of the party. And after that, so I pretty much, I think, was coalescing, the anti-establishment people were coalescing around me. I was approached to take over the GRA at the time to keep the anti-establishment people together. And, and the Frost had been on the anti-establishment side then too. 2017 rolls around, the incumbent chair doesn't run for re-election. John Watson, who is a lobbyist who had given money to Democrats,
corporate lobbyist, yeah,
was the one who the establishment rallied behind, even against at least one or two other. So it was a four-way race again. The establishment people coalesced around him, ignoring the first vice chair, who had been patient for years, just I think waiting to run for chair, and they treated him horribly. African American candidate, mind you, too, and they treated him horribly. The final ballot was Watson versus me. I think I got like 47%, something like that. I lost by like 2 or 3%, again, to a lobbyist who gave money to Democrats.
Right.
I decided to not run again. David Schaefer ran in 2019, got the support of the GRA.
We endorsed
him.
Yep.
We endorsed him. The membership, that is, endorsed him, and we endorsed him, and he wins.
Yep.
And then we endorsed him for re-election too, and he wins. But the point is that when Schaefer won, that was a big shift in the party.
Right.
Schaefer was inclusive. He was
I don't think
open
he
to
gets
people.
enough credit.
You're right. You're right.
And he
the
got
more
prosecuted.
I found out about Schaefer,
Yeah.
yes, and the fact that he is still prosecuted, and God, don't get me started on the RICO case of finding freaking wills. That's still ongoing in this state. I don't think that Mr. Schaefer gets enough credit.
Well,
he
two things
doesn't.
that he did. He kept his promise on paying off all the debt that Padgett had gotten the party deep in, and he also implemented a party platform. That was something the establishment fought us on for years. They didn't want to have a party platform because they don't want the politicians to be held accountable to anything.
Of course.
If you have a platform, then you have something to say, hey, this says this, you're doing that, those doesn't match. So that was a huge step forward. We really appreciate Mr. Schaefer fulfilling those promises.
Yeah, and over those years, a lot of our members, like GRA members, starting 2015 on, were elected to state committee positions. They were elected to party leadership. Because there was an institutional history then and people sharing and helping each other, people ran for party office and our endorsed candidates were getting elected. And then when Schaefer in 2019, that was a turning point because as the chair candidate, he got elected. We already had a lot of people on the state committee and it only grew over time. So to answer your question regarding what happened with the Frost, my personal opinion is that when we started winning, there is a tendency, and this you'll see this in your lives, you'll see this in general, but when people get power, and politicians do this regularly, they get in power and then they don't want to lose power, so they try to control things more.
Control it.
And a lot of people, and Nathaniel and I, Joanna Hildreth, a lot of people on our state executive committee really make a concerted effort to remember and to focus on the fact that, again, we aren't the ones who get these people elected or endorsed. Right. It is our members. Our members have the vote.
Right.
And if our members don't like what somebody who's a GRA member who was a previous GRA endorsed candidate does, our members can choose to follow someone else or be mad at that person who we had previously endorsed. And that's the thing. Josh McCoon was endorsed in 2023 by the GRA membership.
Right.
I still believe he was the best candidate that year because the other candidate, I think, had a lot of establishment history. However, when our members decided that they didn't like some of our endorsed candidates, it's not our job to like somehow bully them into thinking otherwise. But I think that it is tempting when you are involved to then turn around like, well, maybe we need, like, because we have this connection with said politician or said party leader, we need to try to control our membership. Nathaniel and I and our leadership are not in favor of that. And I think that the Frosts, at least to the extent that I talked with Brandt, I think he was opposed to that mindset that I just stated that we have. And I think that is something that shifted. And I think that's what caused a lot of animosity.
Right.
And I to the extent it hurt the GRA's reputation that people were trying to control things at the convention. I mean,
Well,
we did not want that
yeah.
to happen, and that
Right.
is why people were getting kicked out afterwards.
Well, I think that's
mean,
why we're bringing this up, right?
Yeah.
Because the GRA is now, I'm not saying completely, but synonymous with the frost. And I feel like this is a healthy conversation, right? You guys aren't we're responsible for the frost. We're all responsible for our own actions, but somehow it's being made that the GRA and the
And
frost
that's
are
the-
directly...
And that's the establishment wants that to happen because the way that they win, because remember, trade association, the consultants and politicians all make money and are friends with each other. They have always had a good, cohesive network. I mean, if you look back, Governor Deal ran someone against Sue Everhart using that network in 2011, I believe it was, because it was a political industry establishment against sort of everyone else. They want that to be synonymous because they know that divides the grassroots. I mean, if you look at it from the people who make money off politics versus those who want accountability, there's no question as to the fact that the GRA is still, we welcome in new people, we empower people, we want them to have an impact in politics in the way they want to have an impact. We
Right.
want to support them. And the things that happened with the Frost and the Ponzi scheme, I mean, that is... like the alleged Ponzi scheme is, of course, like that is I mean, that is bad for all Republicans.
Right.
Like it
is.
it looks bad. A lot of conservatives were hurt by that. A lot of GRA members were hurt by that. I mean, people are trying to make the GRA PAC look like it is the GRA
So, yeah,
when it's not. The GRA PAC
Yes.
gives money to endorse candidates. I gave money to the GRA PAC. Lots of people
I
gave
did,
money to the
yeah.
GRA PAC. That PAC was designed just for supporting endorsed candidates because the GRA doesn't give money
Right.
directly to candidates.
I think
And-
that's something we need to distinct.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
well, let's touch on that. So, about 10 years ago, was it 2016, 2017? It was before I was on the board. The board basically said to Brandt that, you know, we're going to allow you to use the GRA name in your PAC. But
Okay.
the PAC was run by the Frost the entire time. It was a separate legal entity, separate financial entity. At no point in time did we mix our books together. They didn't give us money to the GRA organization or anything like that. So Brandt ran that pretty much autonomously. And occasionally, you know, he'd tell us a little bit about how things are going, but we weren't like looking down his shoulder or anything. It wasn't designed that way. They designed it so that they would run it pretty much autonomously.
And let me tell you why too. Like people may be, well, why would you have a separate entity? Well, think about this. Politicians need money to run for office. Obviously, we're never going to be able to counterbalance, you know, a giant leadership committee. However, when you really think about it, if the GRA members, people who are joining, people are always asked for money all the time. If the GRA was about raising and spending money, there would be an organizational temptation to care more about the people with more money.
Exactly.
We do not want that. We have never been in favor of that. We're in favor of all members having a voice. It's about empowering the members equally, not about giving special treatment to people with money. So the GRA has never been run by money. If the GRA had been giving money to candidates, what does that mean? That means that there would be disclosures of every single member that joins the GRA of the fact they joined because they would be giving money. We would be under like various jurisdictions
Sure,
of
sure.
disclosure requirements. Why would we don't want to give the establishment a list of every anti-establishment person in the
Yeah,
state. So the GRA has never been giving money to candidates, and you know a separate PAC.
Right, this
all
PAC
of that
was
is very,
separate.
and it's
Gotcha.
all very
And, you
public
know,
and disclosed,
People
and
can
that's
say
all
what they
there.
want now. The PAC, but before all this, it was perfectly fine. So that's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm learning. You know, this was not a GRA PAC. They were using the name. The guy has been involved in this for years, and he's running it, and it's a separate, right?
Right.
Okay.
And there's criticism that they're giving us because we helped to promote the PAC. Well, we promote a lot of partner organizations that share our values and our objectives. We support Georgia Right to Life, Georgia Gun Owners, the Freedom Caucus, Voter GA. We promote all of those organizations on our website, our
Right.
emails, because they are just like-minded organizations that support a lot of the same candidates and policies that we support. But that doesn't mean that we're commingling funds with any of those organizations.
Right.
It just means that we share the same values.
Yeah, and also the thing to remember too is the GRA PAC was giving money to conservative candidates. Who doesn't like that? The establishment rhino dork type. So the attacks on it are also something where it's like the all of their information should be, and I do not know this for a fact, I've never verified it, but all of that is on ethics disclosure statements. Like the
Right.
GRA PAC, all the money coming in, all the money going out is supposed to be on those statements. And, you know, the criticisms of the GRA PAC oftentimes are coming from the same establishment people who hate the grassroots, who hate the anti-establishment efforts. So, I mean, it's something to remember is that I mean, an alleged Ponzi scheme that hurts Republicans is a very bad
and we
situation.
should continue
But
to
trying
say
to
alleged, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Not
Well,
the
and
way
there's
this
been
is-
Yeah.
there's been some newspapers that have falsely misstated the facts on this issue with the PAC and have misled people in how they've parsed their words to make it sound like we, the GRA organization, not the PAC, are being investigated by the state ethics committee, and that's completely inaccurate.
Right.
We even had one of the newspapers apologize and print a retraction saying. And
Oh, good.
clarifying,
Okay.
yeah, we realize the GRA organization is not the one that's being investigated by the State Ethics Commission.
Yeah, well, I
So-
think that's great to clear the air here because, again, we live in this information war that's coming at us 24/7. So even I've been keeping up with it. And I've when I first read these reports, I'm asking this question: well, what's this? GRA PAC and stuff, and obviously we need to understand this because it's unfortunate that we have this. I mean, I can, again, I don't know this Frost family, and I don't think that it was a grand conspiracy that everybody knew this was going on. From the reports I'm reading, these people were just like very bad with their paperwork, and they were just getting desperate to get all this money. And when you even look at some of the money, they were giving it out like candy at a Christmas parade. I mean, it was everywhere. So that does point to what you were saying, Alex, about at a certain point they want access and power. But unfortunately, they've been under the guise of good conservative movements for so long. It's unfortunate. And I asked this question a lot of times. I said, how many people do you start out with when you support them 100% and then go back 4 years later? Do you still support those people? I mean, things are very fluid in this world that I'm seeing, right? That's why I try to focus on truth and moving forward as opposed to the rest of it, right?
Right.
And people really need to look at when people are spreading these stories and trying to attack the GRA or the GRA PAC. Like, remember that the whole thing with the alleged Ponzi scheme, like the AJC and liberal media outlets, they want these stories shared not to help Republicans and care about the victims. They just want headlines that have Republican and Ponzi scheme and corrupt in the same
That's right.
sentence. Because think about it, when eventually voting comes up, some people are just like, oh yeah, I saw that thing about some corrupt thing going on with Republicans, I'm not going to vote Republican.
Exactly.
Like, that is the goal of leftist media. So when you have these alleged Republicans spreading these types of stories and trying to attack Republican groups and magnifying it, I mean, it's hurting Republicanism. I mean, that's one of those ironies of, like, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger running around acting like he's
the
fighting for
savior now,
justice.
yeah.
I mean, if he's supposed to have been regulating this stuff to begin with, he's pretty much like, it was his job to stop it,
Exactly.
and he's turning around and trying to, like, draw attention to it. I mean,
Yeah.
he's
Virtue
essentially
signal.
trying to undermine the Republican Party,
Exactly.
which banned him from running as a Republican at the last convention. So when people talk about people like Brad Raffensperger, they really need to be focused on the fact, like, yes, he's talking about something that he failed at preventing,
we have two-
and he's not a Republican
There's
anymore.
two representatives so far that's been in power for years that are now coming out trying to look like the savior. And these are some of the worst representation you could possibly
Chris
get.
Carr and
Yes,
Brad
it's beyond
Raffensperger.
me. I hope that both of them will watch this, and we're going to cut this out too, because I want them to know that I might look dumb, but I'm not that dumb. Okay? This is ridiculous. But so basically, the bottom line is the GRA PAC was something that was started, and the name was being used, and in no way actually reflects the GRA. It's just like anybody else. That was the fundraising, I guess, arm. Where it's not, because the GRA doesn't raise money. They don't give money, right? This is about the body.
Yeah, not for political candidates.
Not
Like, we
right.
definitely want people to join the GRA and focus money on supporting local chapters and getting people to join us. But that's the thing, is the GRA is about being accessible to as many principled Republicans as possible. Like, we want members, and we want those members to run our organization, because that way we are a representative group that is holding politicians accountable. The GRA is about you. It's about members. It's about empowering our members to have an impact in politics instead of just being pushed around by the media and politicians and being propagandized to.
Right.
And I guess I could state for the record, are y'all paying me to be here?
No.
No, I asked you to.
Nobody's
I asked you.
Nobody's paying us.
No
to
one
do-
in this room is getting paid
No.
for
I
our
just thought
involvement
we'd
right
be
now.
public about that because I
Exactly.
think we really care about it, and
Yes.
the progress that I have seen moving forward. We bring up the Freedom Caucus.
Mm-hmm.
If I would leave a number one goal for anybody in here is I would love to have a block of 10 or 15 Freedom Caucus members in one
Yes.
chamber that
Yes.
has the power and control to stop all this draconian legislation
Mm-hmm.
moving forward, and then be forced to come to that table
Right.
to come up with common sense legislation, pro-human legislation. I mean,
Right.
that's what I want to see.
Yeah, no, that is the next step, I think,
Yeah.
in this accountability process is to see us grow the Freedom Caucus in the state legislature.
Yeah.
The GRA PAC is no more. The Frost Family
Okay.
PAC has been shut
And I
down, or
would
it's in the process of
imagine-
being shut down. So we're encouraging folks to give to the Freedom Caucus.
Right.
PAC, give to their
Okay.
PAC to help grow
Yeah.
that PAC, that caucus. We're going to be trying to help them in any way we
And
can.
we've got to hold them accountable as well, right?
Mm-hmm,
We've got to hold. We've got to look in the mirror at ourselves, hold ourselves accountable, and we have to. That's how you support these groups that are doing good, and you're holding them accountable at the same time, so that we move forward together. And that's how you build these bridges and build these sort of unity that you want. I mean, I can't get any more plainer than that.
yeah.
And I imagine that if the GRA, after learning from this, if there was ever another extent of that, it would be done in a way that probably couldn't be as damaging in the future, right?
It's been a
Exactly.
learning
I got you.
process. So definitely encourage your listeners to check out our website,
Yes.
georgiara.com. Look into becoming a GRA member. Get involved in making a difference in your local party, whether that means you run for a local party office, whether that means you run for public office or help campaign. There's lots of different ways we can train folks and help folks that care about the principles to make a difference in their communities. And we'll be happy to, plug you in with all the huge network of like-minded patriots across the state that are in the GRA.
If you can just figure out a way to convince my wife that I should run, I'll do it. Other than that,
Yeah.
we're going to stay right here.
Yeah,
So-
and if you have any friends in other states, or if you are in another state, just shoot an email to ajohnson@georgiara.com or Google National Federation of Republican Assemblies, and we have chapters around the country, and if we don't have a chapter near you, it's not that it's not that difficult to get one started, to start holding these rhinos accountable, because it's important, and we have people around the country fighting this battle, and we have
Yeah.
our national convention coming up in California just next month in Anaheim, and California is where it's all started.
That's
And they
right.
have thousands of members out there.
And I'd like to point out something personally, that being involved, and I'm somebody that's not even involved that much. But these guys don't even matter that much in the grand scheme. It is the body of the people that make up the GRA, and I've seen that firsthand. And so, this is, I believe, something we can put our get some skin into the game. And so, anything else before we close that you want to mention? Anything upcoming with the GRA?
Well, this is an exciting time to be alive. It's an exciting time to be involved in Georgia Republican Party politics. I know there are some people that are discouraged and maybe a little bit disillusioned because of some setbacks and some frustrations about things like how certain things took place at the state convention in Dalton a few months ago. But it's also a very exciting time because what we've been describing about making traction with this accountability effort to block rhinos on the ballot, and our influence is growing. So I would encourage folks to stay involved, keep your eye on the target, do not allow the establishment to scare you away. There's a famous quote, I mean, if y'all have heard, we used to have a t-shirt that we would sell that would promote this, that if all the good people leave, then the only people running the show are the bad people. Edmund
right.
Burke used to say that idea, to get that concept across, that if all the good people leave, then
right.
only the bad ones are running things anymore. And the establishment will either try to scare you away, or if they can't scare you away, they will try to assimilate you. The GRA helps you avoid both of those problems, and we try to reinforce the good patriots that are involved in the GOP and in the legislature.
Well, it's a
so
lot
please help
like,
us be a part of that.
It's Providence. If
Right.
the 2020 election hadn't have happened the way it did, we wouldn't have all of this progress we made to fix the election. if this convention had have went, I guess, in anyone's favor for that matter, or if it hadn't have played out like it had, especially a lot of these people, you guys have been going through this for years at conventions, but now there's a huge light shed on conventions.
Right.
So all of this stuff to me is divine providence. It's a providence of having this stuff to break down so that people can clearly see that there are major problems.
And in 2013, because Nathaniel's absolutely right, they want you to go away or they want to assimilate you. And in 2013, the thing is, so a lot of anti-establishment people won at the state convention. Like, anti-establishment people won pretty much across the board. Now, some of our endorsed candidates did not win because there were multiple anti-establishment people in races. A lot of people showed up from the public. But one thing that was interesting is immediately after that convention, while still in the city it was in, I had two different people that I would have classified as establishment come up to me personally and say, yeah, your guys didn't all win. I guess we're on the same team now against all these new people, huh? They said that to me, and that obviously they did not know me because my response was just sort of like laughing and walking away. But in my mind, I'm like, no, we're going to be welcoming in the new people, not allying with the establishment to try to keep people out. But to the assimilation point, that was a direct conversation and effort with me to try to keep out new people or discourage them because they thought just because some of our endorsed candidates lost, I was going to suddenly be on their side against them,
right?
which is not the thing, because the people who won, they may not have been who we endorsed, but they also were not establishment. They were genuinely trying to make things better, so we wanted to welcome them in. But if you read the book, and I encourage everyone to do this, A Choice, Not an Echo. It goes back. Phyllis Schlafly, she followed this from the early 1900s. This is not new. Like, I know that it angered a few people when I was saying, like, hey, this was not the worst convention in the universe that just happened in 2025. But, I mean, I had seen worse. But you read Phyllis Schlafly's book, she will confirm, going back to the early 1900s, there is a deep, horrible, money-centered, uniparty type establishment that is trying to keep out people and has been doing it for 100 years. They do not want the U.S. government to be accountable to or serve the American people. They just want it to serve corporate interests. And if you read that, you will understand how important it is for you to be involved and not be discouraged. Part of the reason I often stay involved is because I realize I know this. I'm one of the few people who understands this, and we need to be fighting pro bono, volunteer, to make it better. And now that you've seen this and know it, I frankly believe that you are disserving humanity if you are not getting involved and more involved. Like, you know how bad it is. Like, don't be lazy and cowardly. Like, get involved. If you don't like me saying that, come get involved in the Republican Assembly and replace me, because I'm calling you out for being lazy and not getting involved in this effort.
Yeah, like Edmund Burke said, all that's necessary for evil to succeed is for the good people to do nothing. Yeah,
man, and I probably needed to hear that as well. But gentlemen, I appreciate the time that you've given us today, and I look forward to doing this again soon. And again, I look forward to participating and watching the GRA continue to bring in good people, new people, people that are ready to drain the swamp, until we get what we need, which is real accountability, real transparency, and people that work for the people.
Well, thank you for helping to support that cause. I mean, you're a GRA member. You've helped support, GRA leaders like Colton Moore, our endorsed candidate Colton. You've supported him. You've supported a lot of the Freedom Caucus folks. You've done broadcasts to support the folks in Catoosa that are championing the accountability effort there. So thank you for helping to support that cause through your program.
Yes, thank you. I'm always honored to be on.
Well, again, and you guys were integral in helping, especially a lot of the grassroots, to get involved and trying to teach people how these things work. It is a game, and I still haven't found that book yet. I've been looking for it, but I haven't found it. But I've got to read it. But anyway, folks, that's all of our time today. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this and just help share it out. And if you're interested in getting involved, I think the GRA is a good organization. I believe in them, and I believe in myself, and I'm part of the body of this. That's simply how it works, and I've not seen anything work like it yet. So, guys, I hope y'all have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
You too. Thanks a lot, Roy.
Appreciate it. you.